Now let's get to staying on the road. And we're going to talk about TVs and wall brackets and flat screen TVs. All that fun stuff that comes with an RV and part of the entertainment world that we have to have with us all the time. Whether it's a TV, a phone, a tablet, somehow we got to have entertainment. But a lot of RVs come with flat screen TVs in them. And so that's the one fixture in an RV that always seems to get my attention whenever I walk into an RV. It doesn't matter how big the flat screen TV is, where it's located in the RV, or even the quality of the TV. You know, there's so many brands. We talked about that last episode, brands. Heck, that plays right into TVs. There's a lot of low-quality TVs out there. But so that TV, it just gets my attention, and it probably gets a lot of people's attention for many reasons. It's there. Generally, they're big. They kind of command your eyes to zoom in on them. You know, they stand out regardless of where they're at, how they're mounted. They just are there. It's a fixture in the room. So that gets my attention. But you know what gets my attention even more than a TV mounted to the wall? When you walk in an RV and that flat screen TV is lying on the floor and it's broken into pieces. Now that's going to get your attention. And you look at it and you go, wow, somehow that fell off the wall. Huh, wow, bummer. And it probably happened while they were traveling, because it's bouncing down the road, and that's when things fall apart in an RV. They typically don't fall apart when you're sitting there. It's when you're going down the road. It's funny. Isn't it ironic? The thing that it's made for is going down the road, but yet it's not built durable enough to withstand going down the road. Huh. There's probably a word for that. Stupidity? No. Anyway, so why would this TV have fallen off the wall? Yeah, there could be several reasons why. You know, I'm not sure what you might be thinking for reasons, but here's what I got. That the bracket wasn't mounted correctly. That could be the issue. So let's explore that before we go on to the other problem that it could be. So in my mind, there's only a couple things that can really happen here. You might be looking at a different picture, but that's what I see. So the bracket has to be mounted to the wall correctly, and generally it needs to be mounted to the studs, you know, the upright studs that hold the wall together, that support the RV, just like a house. And house has 2x4s, RV has toothpicks, or something a little bit bigger, but it's not a 2x4. So it has to be mounted to the studs, or it has to be mounted in an area that's designated by the manufacturer of the RV that has been designed to support the weight of the TV and the bracket. You know, you got the TV and the bracket. Sometimes we just look at the TV as the weight, but the brackets, sometimes they have a little weight to them as well. And when you're mounting something to an RV wall, weight does matter. So this has to be done correctly. You can't cheat here. You might try, but it just won't work. RV walls are not built like walls in a house. You know, they're 2x2s, 1.5 by 1.5. You know, it depends. Sometimes the studs might be aluminum, might be metal, but plan on it being wood for the most part. And in a house, it's different. You have 2x4s. The house isn't bouncing down the road. You can literally mount a TV bracket to the drywall with the proper anchors. It's not going to go anywhere because the house doesn't bounce. Now, if you live in Southern California and there's an earthquake, maybe a different story. It's going to tear the drywall off. But heck, that's an earthquake. You live in Southern California. Whatever. It's the way it happens. So it's built differently. And so when the manufacturer is building the RV, if they feel that that's where the TV is going to go, they're going to build it right into the wall. You know, and usually they get it right. They don't skimp there. It's one of the things they do get right most of the time. So now this might be pretty obvious to some, like, oh yeah, well, no duh, that's how you'd have to mount it, either where they want you to, or it has to mount to the studs. But, you know, some people might not realize that paneling is really thin, you know, less than 1/4 of an inch, and it's just stapled to the wall. And, you know, if you mounted a TV bracket to it, it might hold it while you're sitting there. It might stay there forever, depending on how you mounted it to the paneling. But it's when you go down the road and it starts bouncing around where now it's going to pull that TV off with the bracket. So the paneling could literally just break, or it could pull away from the wall, pull all the staples out. And so that can create a lot more damage than just a broken TV. Now you got paneling that can be destroyed that you can't match, and now you got a problem. Now you might think that you can put a TV on that wall and just take it off when you're traveling. That might be the case if the bracket for the TV is fairly light. You still would want to think twice about that, though, because once that paneling starts coming apart, you've got a problem. Now, suppose you want to add a TV to that special place on the wall. It's just where you want the TV, but it might not even be possible to do it. So keep in mind, at the bare minimum, you'll need to have power there. So power is a different story in RV. Again, it's not like a house. You can't just make holes in the drywall, run power, and patch it up, and, you can never tell. RVs aren't like that. So you have to think about that. Is power going to be nearby wherever you want this TV? Even if the cord's exposed, that's okay. Some things we can look at, because that's where we want the TV. And you'll also need an HDMI outlet or a cable outlet, something to receive the signal for the TV, unless it's a smart TV and you have an internet access with wireless, so then the TV connect over the internet, which is great. That eliminates that. All you need is a power outlet. But those are things you have to consider. So you can't just slap a TV up anywhere and go, okay, now work, TV. Now, if it's a smart TV, like I said, it might, if you have internet in your RV, but you might not always have internet, so you have to consider that. With smart TVs, you can get Roku boxes, Amazon Fire Sticks, there's a plethora of things you can just attach that work off the internet that give you everything you need. You could even attach a tablet to a TV or a phone and have your shows already downloaded on it if you wanted to go that route. And that can even be a dumb TV as long as it has an HDMI port on it. So those are options. And having a TV for a lot of people is very important because it's easier to watch. If you like watching TV with your family, it keeps the family together and it makes sense. But where you put it has to make sense and how the manufacturer does it. So now let's get to the other side of this. The other problem that can happen with TVs, even when the TV comes from the factory, it comes with the RV. It's mounted where it's supposed to be on the wall. So the manufacturer said, this is where the TV goes. And on that assembly line, the guy sets down his beer, or takes a needle out of his arm, and he mounts the TV wall bracket where it should be. Okay, so that's done. And so the TV's on there, and you go to the dealership. Oh, that's the RV I want. And you buy it. The TV's mounted there, and you take it home. You go on a couple trips, and finally that scenario happens. You walk into your RV, and the TV's laying on the floor in pieces. How did that happen? Everything was where it's supposed to be. The manufacturer couldn't have messed this one up, could they? Well, they could have. They got the TV bracket in the right place on the wall. It's mounted. It's rock solid. In fact, it didn't even come off the wall. It's just the TV's laying on the floor, and part of the bracket's with it or none of the bracket's with it. What the heck is going on here? You're trying to figure this out. So you look at the TV closer, and on the back of it, where the four holes are, where the screws are, the threads, see, that's called a visa pattern. And all TVs have them, all modern TVs that are for wall mounts. And there's different size visa patterns, but it's standard patterns. So if it's a small one, medium, large, they're standard sizes, and all TV brackets come with everything to accommodate all the different sizes. That's why when you buy a bracket kit, it has like 400 screws in it, 13 pieces of metal with holes in it. So it fits any TV out there. But the problem is, it's not the visa pattern. It's not the screws. The threads were put in there properly. But where the visa pattern is put, where it's designed to be mounted on the back of the TV, it's mounted on a piece of plastic that is either held onto the back of the TV with tiny little screws, or it snaps into the back. And that does not work in an RV. You need to have a TV that the whole back is one piece, so it can't break apart like that. And this isn't as uncommon as you might think, because there's so many TVs and brands out there, and manufacturers buy whatever will work. If they're looking for a 36-inch TV, they could care less about the quality. They're going to buy a 36-inch TV. They're going to buy 1,000 of them, 100 of them, whatever. They're going to slap them puppies up and ship them. It's not their problem. And it's really not, because you're just going to go buy another TV and put it up there. And you might go to one of the big stores, Walmart, one of them places, and not take it out of the box, not look at the back of it, and get home and have the exact same problem down the road. So if you're going to replace that TV or add one to your RV, make sure not only the bracket is installed in the right place, but also that the TV has the right backing on it to support itself going down the road. If your RV's never going to move, it's stationary, you know it's never going to move, then just buy anything you want and mount it to the wall. It doesn't really matter as far as the TV goes. You still want to get the bracket up right, but the TV won't matter. But if that RV is designed to go down the road, then you certainly want to make sure that that TV is the correct one. And a lot of new RVs don't come with a TV. They don't even come with a bracket on the wall, but it'll be marked on the wall, TV goes here. And that's where the bracket would go. So you still have to, it rules out the manufacturer's element of making the mistake and puts it in your hands now. So don't be like the manufacturer. Be the smart RVer and mount the TV properly. So when you go into your RV after you've been driving down the road for 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 hours, you get into the RV, it's not laying on the floor. That will ruin a trip if you're counting on having that TV. So a little bit of advice there, and this is one of these things that kind of slips under the radar sometimes, but pay close attention to it. Now, again, I want to ask everybody to share this episode with their friends and families, anybody that owns an RV. We're trying to build up our growth out there, our listens, our watches, our whatevers. So we thank you for that and for sharing it with others and for listening. We really appreciate that. We put a lot of work into the show, and hopefully it pays off for you.